Hello, trampoline friends, and welcome back to Trampoline Insight. I'm Nuno Marino alongside Steven Gluckston, and this is episode 6.
Today, we're going to be discussing competing or not competing in all four events: individual trampoline, synchronized trampoline, double mini trampoline, and tumbling.
So, Steven, what are your thoughts on athletes doing 4 events? And I know this is a really complicated topic, so why don't we break it down? What are your thoughts on developmental athletes doing 4 events?
So I think that it's imperative, it's crucial that the athletes start at least on 3 events. I don't think that during their development as a trampolinist, they necessarily start doing synchronized trampoline until later on. But for the development of strength, for the development of speed and shaping, I think it's crucial that the athletes do at least the tumbling, double mini, and trampoline. What about you? Do you think they need to or don't
So,
need to?
so I have an interesting, or I don't have an interesting view. My views just shift on this throughout my career and throughout my life and experience, because I come from a country that athletes do not do 3 events, or most of them, at least when I was there, did not do 3 events. If things change, please let us know in the comments below. But when I left the country in 2013, trampoline and tumbling, trampoline, double mini, and synchro was one group of people. Tumbling and maybe some double mini was another group of people. Okay, so there was not a lot of mix in between this. Even the coaches are different. The clubs, they may have separate programs for tumbling and then trampoline, double mini, and synchro. So my evolution culturally and my mentality was on that setting, obviously, right? So for me, that was the normal. When I moved to the United States, and everything is mixed, so all clubs do, or let me say, almost all clubs do 3 events, right? And all the developmental athletes start on 3 events. It's regular for us to do that. And I saw, just like you said, the benefits of doing tumbling and double mini and trampoline with all of them, and see the increase in strength that they get younger, and that allowing them to do new skills earlier on the trampoline, and jumping higher earlier and all. When I saw those benefits, I totally agree with you. I think in a developmental stage, I think it's very beneficial for the athletes to start with all 3 events. And when I say that, then I come from a culture that doesn't do that. That doesn't mean that tumbling does not use trampoline for their development, okay? And that doesn't mean that trampoline, double mini, and synchronized athletes do not use floor exercises to increase their development, okay? They do, but because they don't go onto the tumbling track, and they don't have to do back handsprings, they don't have to go through that stage physically, they don't get as strong just by jumping on the trampoline. That's all.
Right. So I think in the United States, I think we have that, some of that exists here. There are some gyms that are very tumbling dominant, and some gyms that are very trampoline dominant, and there are some gyms that are better at double mini, but I think a lot of the trampoline and double mini kind of go hand in hand. But do you think it's necessary at that developmental age, and we're talking anywhere probably between 5 and 10 years old? You would agree with those numbers, but when we're
Yeah,
speaking about developmental age,
yeah.
5, maybe even 5 and 12. So during that
Maybe
developmental
5 and
age,
12, yeah. I would
do
open
you
it a little bit more.
do you think, so we both agree that it's important that they're training on all the events. Do you think they need and should compete on all of the events?
So that's a good question, but I think if they don't compete, they don't really commit at 100% in training either. So I think for
Yeah,
those
but they don't
ages,
they don't they don't compete in conditioning and stretching either, right? But they have to commit to those things as well.
but some of them don't, right? We know
Yeah,
that
of course.
it's not the same. It's not the same. They don't emphasize the same commitment on that, since they don't have to compete it. I at least I struggle with my athletes to do conditioning and flexibility. I really do. Some more than others, no doubt, but I struggle because how do you explain to them that that is such a vital, important part of their development? It's like believing in something that you will only see 10 years later, the result, the outcome, because it's a slow process. So you don't really see that you're getting stronger, but then 10 years later, if you didn't do the things 10 years before, then you will notice the difference between an athlete that did conditioning and another that didn't. But I just want to say something about what you said. I do agree with you that the United States, they have a lot of tumbling dominant gyms and a lot of trampoline dominant gyms, but most of the times you see the same coach doing all three events. Not that doesn't mean that, for example, in my gym, I do not coach tumbling unless I really have to. Yes, but there are plenty of coaches that do all three events, that coach all three events. So, and I think that's something that you don't see in other countries. I'm actually very, very curious about what's the reality in the world. So if you guys are listening to us, please drop us a comment down below and tell us what's the reality in your country. Tell us how is the culture in your country. Do your athletes do three events when they start? Do they not are the gyms totally separate? Do your gym even has tumbling, even has space for tumbling? Because I truly believe, and we talked about this on episode before, I truly believe that apart from Russia, United States, and maybe Denmark, tumbling is not the most famous discipline out there. But I'm very curious. I'm very, very curious.
Yeah, me too. I think the difficulty with the rod floor is not only the cost, but the length that's needed for
Correct.
for a run up, the full floor, and the proper landing area. Now going back to
Maybe
developmental
that's a topic. Maybe that's a topic we should bring on the next episodes. What should our apparatus have some modifications? You
changes.
know,
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious what other people think about this. So maybe we'll do an episode about this. I think that would
yeah.
be very.
Well,
Let us know if you'd like an episode about that.
and I know I think they were at least what world championships was it 2015 maybe that they had the air track out and they were trying to make some moves towards the air track. Um,
Yeah,
so
we can discuss that later. I'm very curious, but we have a lot of
so
topic there to go for a whole episode. So why don't we?
Um, all right, so bringing it back to developmental athletes competing in 3 or 4 events. When I say 3 or 4, I'm kind of pushing out synchronized trampoline because I think that a lot of countries maybe don't even compete in synchronized trampoline until maybe after, at least 10 or 11 or 12 years old. Um, you kind of have to learn to run by yourself before you can run at the same time as someone else, right?
That is true.
Um, but what the one thing that I think is fantastic, at least in the culture for the United States, for Americans here, competing in at least 3 events, maybe even 4, is a wonderful thing for the parents and a wonderful thing for the family and the kids. They have more opportunities, that they can come home with a ribbon or a medal or more chances to compete. The worst is not the worst, but it's our sport. But you go to watch your 8-year-old compete and they do one trampoline pass for 15 seconds and you just trained and traveled and spent all this money and then they do 15 seconds. Maybe they even do 15 seconds. Maybe they mess up on their first skill, right? You traveled all that way and they do boom, back layout, boom to the mat, and then, okay, let's go home, right? So I think during the developmental years, I think it's important for them to have more opportunities to compete. Instead of doing 1 or 2 events and going to 4 competitions, you can do 3 or 4 events, and go to 2, and have that same opportunity at getting more and more competition.
And I think what people don't realize, and I understand is that the United States, it's a different place, right? Yes, maybe the quality of living or it's higher than other countries, and I believe that, but also because the average income is probably higher than other countries, but also the expenses is also higher than other countries. If we would do an episode, if we would do the breakdown, how much a parent in the United States has to pay to have their child on a competitive program, not just trampoline, but a competitive program, to go to competitions, to travel across the country sometimes to go to a competition, compared with a country like Portugal, this is just an example, which is the size of, I don't even know, but it's half the size,
New
it's
Jersey.
half the width of Alabama, right? And it's totally different. You can drive. You don't even have to worry about planning your trip. Basically, you can drive on the day and then come back home if you want. And here, every trip that we plan, basically, it's like an international trip for them, right? We have to book plane tickets, we have to book hotels, we have to, and all that is a lot of money on the parents. So I totally agree with you. Going to a competition and having the opportunity to compete 3 to 4 times if they're old enough to do synchro, which we only start at level 9, as you know, but it's beneficial. Obviously, the parents enjoy that because it gives them more opportunities to compete, and I think also for the athletes it's also beneficial because they can go through that stress more than one time a competition, right? So they can evolve faster, they can become better faster, and at an earlier age dealing with the pressure of a competition. So I think that's beneficial for our athletes.
So I think some reasons why people might not do it at the developmental age, right? Number one is equipment. And my rebuttal to that would be, well, I grew up in an artistic gym and we still tumbled. We tumbled on a spring floor, right? And I would learn, all different passes. I think the longest pass I would do was maybe something like round off 3 back handsprings double full or something like this from a power hurdle, diagonally. But it's still an opportunity to do this, and you can, at least at the developmental age where maybe they're only doing round off 3-4 back handsprings, you can do on a spring floor and still compete on a rod floor. At ETA, that's what we did up until last year. We, with our lower levels, they would train on a spring floor and then compete on a rod floor. And honestly, at that level, it's I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Same thing with a trampoline. Some people maybe only have a yellow Aussie bed trampoline or an old string bed trampoline, and that's okay. They can still do up to, who knows? I mean, I don't want to put any limitations on anyone, but they could do up to an optional level routine on those trampolines and still compete on a better trampoline.
So Steven, did you compete tumbling when you were younger?
No, I never competed tumbling. But I didn't train the passes, and I think maybe I would have been even a little bit better tumbler if we had done like the steps and levels, the proper progressions. But I did tumble. I think the hardest things I ever did, well, my best accomplishment on a rod floor and 2007 World Cup when I was in Lake Placid before they left. I did whips down the whole entire floor. However, I think it took me like 12 or 13 to make it down the floor. But and I've done a double back tuck, a double back pike, an Arabian double front on the spring floor. And again, I had no intentions at all to compete that event, but it was good for air awareness. It was good for power, for speed.
So you trained it, but you never competed it, correct?
Right. But I think I started already at 10 years old. And on trampoline, I started at level 8, and then I progressed to level 10 within a year. So I don't think my tumbling probably would have started, I don't know, near an optional level. And I wouldn't have been able to fit whatever 8 skills in that spring floor. But I'm saying for people that have a spring floor, 40 by 40 artistic, they can compete up to, I don't know, level 6 or so, depending on the size of the athlete.
I was just curious about your own career because I never did tumbling. Okay, like I said, in Portugal, we separate the program, so I never tumbled my entire life. All the tumbling that I did was for pure curiosity and just to better myself. But I never really trained tumbling. I never competed tumbling. So when people ask me if it's mandatory, I don't think it's mandatory. It's obviously possible to reach the top without doing tumbling. I just think it's very beneficial, especially at the level that the world is today. Okay, that the kids do everything faster and earlier, and I think for that level it's important. It can be beneficial. That's all.
And I think there are some clubs also out there, and this is my assumption, that they don't necessarily do tumbling or double mini because it's not an Olympic sport. That they're focused on Olympic sports, and I think that they're missing out greatly on getting better for trampoline, especially like for my the group that I coach, the like level 4s and maybe level 5s, I'll spend more time on the floor than I do on the trampoline, because at that age it's more important to be shaping, to building strength and positions, than it is to have them jumping on the trampoline like noodles and trying to learn skills. Um, so I think that, you know, they would be shooting themselves in the foot if they weren't necessarily training all of them at those early years. You
So
disagree
for
or
me,
agree?
no, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. And for me, one of the things that was very, very helpful on my individual trampoline was synchro. I think I always competed better synchro. I always did, I don't know, I always trained better synchro. And yes, the routines are a little bit easier, but it's the mindset. The mindset of synchro is just different than an individual trampoline. And I think I was successful when I tried to bring that mindset into the individual, and being able to compete like that, which is not easy. I don't think it's very easy, but I saw myself during many years. How can I be so successful in synchro and keep crashing individual?
Mm-hmm.
Like the routine is not even that much different. How is it possible? Sometimes there was years that was the same routine. I mean, like it's the mindset that you jump synchro with, that you don't want to disappoint your partner, and you are you let your autopilot and your routine kind of take over, so you can focus a little bit of are we at the same time, right? And your routine just goes better. Or individually start thinking too much and you just mess up the whole thing. Sometimes, not all the time,
Yeah.
obviously, but sometimes. So I felt I saw a huge improvement in my evolution when I did more synchro. And I know the Ukrainians do that a lot. The Ukrainians use synchro a lot, and I feel like in the past they even used more. I remember trainings for the worlds and all that. They would do synchro every day. Sometimes they would do only synchro.
Really?
Yes, it was. Yes. That was. It was. That was one of the things that amazed me the most, and I was like, wow. I was impressed. I was impressed. For them, synchro was a big part of their development.
So that kind of, so I think you're referring to already as an elite or almost elite athlete.
Yes.
So
Sorry. Yes.
let's shift the conversation towards that. Let's ask the question again. Should elite athletes do all 4 events? Your opinion on that?
So I don't think elite athletes should do all 4 events. I think when you start seeing that there is clearly an aptitude for one of the events, I think you should start guiding everything towards that. Maybe they can continue doing the other events for fun to help them with certain things. For example, and this is just an example, I have athletes of mine that made the choice for themselves to not tumble. Okay. But sometimes they ask me, Nuno, can I just go tumble today? I have a lot of fun doing it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they just go and tumble for a little bit just for fun, okay, just because they enjoy it. And of course, I think that's great. I think that's part of our sport, that we are able to do that, and they can still have fun doing tumbling but not competing it, and still using the strength that they gain there to allow them to be successful on other events. Now I think, in my opinion, as you grow and as you become an elite, I think the technique for tumbling is not helpful for the technique in trampoline. They, they coincide, and they I
Right.
think the word destroys too hard, okay, but they don't benefit each other. Definitely they
Yeah.
don't complement each other, right? So I think they need to make a decision when they obviously are starting to be good at one event. um,
So
when you get to the 17-year-old, and you're doing world cups and world championships, then for sure then you should be
so you think,
specializing on one.
so when you say, so 17 years old is the age around that you think that should be determined?
No. I think they should determine it before. Okay, I think, and I'm not sure I can put an age to it. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure. Every case is different, but I think when you become an elite on one discipline, and if you're not an elite on the other discipline, that's already a sign, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, right? And I think at that point in time, people need to start thinking about it. Others need to start understanding: is this discipline taking time from the one that I'm better to evolve on that one, or is this discipline still not taking time, and I still evolving on it, and I'm still evolving on the other one? Maybe I can do it all both at the same time, right? Or all 3 at the same time. I think that needs to be a really good analysis between the coach and the athlete, and understand, is this beneficial to continue? all three, or is not beneficial to continue all three, right? For me, from what I see, when they start becoming elites, I think it starts taking time out of the disciplines that they're elites, and it's not helpful, in my opinion. That's my personal
Mhm.
opinion. Now, when I say 17 is, by then you should be training only those that you specialize, so you can be good at that you specialize, right?
Mhm.
Right. So, what is your thoughts?
So, yeah, so I think I'm in the same ballpark as you. So at our club, we kind of have this general rule of thumb that when you become an elite on one event, then you can choose for yourself if you want to continue one or not continue one, or the other. So, and like you said, usually you hit elite on one before the other. For us, 99.9% of the time, it's trampoline, right? So
Yes.
most of the time, by the when they become an elite trampolinist, they've already stopped um, tumbling competitively. If they do compete competitive tumbling, maybe they're level 7, level 8, maybe level 9, and they're doing it because they enjoy doing it. And as long as they're staying safe, that's okay with us. However, I think for the most part, once they become an elite, them the athlete and the athlete's family will decide most 9 times out of 10, do we want to stick around from Thursday's competition to Sunday? Because on Sunday is the level 8 and 9 tumbling competition, and on Thursday and Friday is the elite trampoline
The
competition.
elites.
And they're like, you know what, maybe I'm okay not competing tumbling anymore, but I'll still like to train it for fun, and that's okay. Or they'll say, I don't want to train it at all, and I want to just simply compete in trampoline, synchronized trampoline, and double mini.
And what you just said, I see that influencing parents a lot on their decisions. Okay, because I see they don't want to stay 2 more days to just do tumbling at the end of the weekend. They try not to, right? So that makes them think already. But one thing I think is important, in my opinion, is I don't want to make the choice for them. I think if we make the choice for them, they will regret it later in time. They will always see, oh, I could have done better there. I was not ready to be done. I don't think coaches should make the choice for the athlete. I think the athletes should get to a point that they say, you know what, this is getting a little bit too hard on my body. I really would like this time that I spend here and this pain that I spend here, I would prefer to put it there. That's where my motivation is. That's what I'm enjoying. So I think that needs to be their realization. They need to be able to make that choice. And I see and I know some programs that makes them decide, and then I fully disagree with that. I think sooner or later they're gonna come back and say, "Oh, you made me stop on tumbling, and I think I could have been a really really great tumbler." I'm like,
Yeah. So I have two questions that come to mind. Number one is, so let's say you have a group of athletes, 8 athletes maybe, and they're all between levels 8, 9, 10, and then you have maybe 2 elite athletes, youth elite or junior elite. And they say, well, we don't want to do tumbling anymore, right? You're the coach. You go to tumbling, you do your rotation of tumbling. What do you do with those 2 athletes?
I'm bringing back to another event. I have to make I think at that point, and we already don't do this because we're basically a trampoline club, right? We don't do the rotations every day for all events. We have some days that we go to tumbling, some days that we go to double mini, and we do trampoline every day of the week. But and I think that needs to become an adaptation. When those athletes are ready to finish an event, then they need to be inserted into the other event for more rotations. I
So
organize a
yeah.
clinic. I organize a clinic after my competitions every year, every competition that we have, and that's what I do. When we have athletes that don't do tumbling rotations, they just do 2 trampoline rotations. So, and I try to make them in a row before they move to the double mini, for example. I
Hmm.
think that will that change the way coaches have to do things? Yes, they do. For me,
Yeah.
I guess it never changed for me because from the beginning we already had athletes that only did trampoline from the beginning.
Hmm.
Okay, so it never changed for me, but it will change probably some coaches' approaches to it, no doubt.
Yeah. And I think some of the things that we've done, at least in our club, is that, well, first of all, we don't train all the events every single day, right? So just like you, we train trampoline every single day, double mini some days, tumbling some days. Now, if there's another team going on, maybe it's the level 7s, and they're going on trampoline, and my group that I coach levels 8, 9, 10, and I have those 2 elite athletes that don't want to tumble. Well, if it's time for me to go to tumbling, I'll send those 2 elite athletes up to train with maybe the level 7s, and I'll either give them a plan for basics, or that if depending on the other coach feels comfortable coaching them, they'll do some basics with them, or maybe some small pieces of the routine. If I'm not able to kind of see them from the gym, because everyone's gym is laid out differently. But so let me ask you this next question, and we'll kind of shift the conversation. At what point did you stop competing double mini and trampoline, and how often, when you were doing those, how often did you train double mini?
Oh, that is such a good question, Steven. You have no idea. We can be here for a whole hour now. Okay, so I competed always double mini and trampoline since we had a double mini and a trampoline. Like people already heard on episode 1, I started with a mini tramp, and then double mini, and then a trampoline, and then we had all 3 events, and then the quality of the equipment improved, and blah blah blah. So after I was already doing double mini and trampoline all at the same time, I competed double mini until 2001. One was my last competition in double mini, and I was going to continue. I was going to continue for the simple purpose that double mini was where I was really really good at it at the moment, and it was where I would get some money.
What level were you competing on double mini up until 2001, and how old were you?
So I was 21 in 2001, and I was world level. I went to world championships. I did 1998, 1999, and 2001, 3 world championships in double mini. Okay, so at that point in time, we had a really great team. I'm not gonna deny it. We had a really, really, really great team in Portugal since 98 to 2001, and even before, but I was not involved. So
did Luis compete in 98, or was he 94, 96?
Luis was 94 and 96, I think. Yes.
Okay, so you guys didn't compete on the same team.
No, we did not compete on the same team. No, but Diogo Faria, he was on Luis' team, and then he was on our team. So yes, he was the one that transitioned between the generations there. Yes. So I competed till 2001, 21 years old, double mini, and I really love double mini. I'm not gonna deny it. I really, really love double mini. I was really good at it, and we're talking about the 1 inch by 1 inch bed, the 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters bed. That we're not talking about the 6x6. I never jumped on a 6x6 bed, and we were doing full rudies and almost drift tucks. I could never finish my drift tuck, but there was people competing triples on that tramp. It was really really good. I would suggest everyone to go and try and see world championships of 2001, and even before that. 1998 was amazing. 1999 was amazing. Just look for those videos. If you have trouble finding them, just let us know. We can try and facilitate that process. At that point in time, 2001, 21 years old, and I was like, well, I really like double mini. I'm going to continue doing double mini just so I can have some prize money at the end of the year, because our federation will give us, according to our results, some prize money.
Hold on, back up. You were staying in double mini for the money?
Yes. you get to a point. Well,
right. Yeah.
Okay, I loved what I did. I love double mini, but double mini was what was giving me some cash at the end of the year, so I could have some money, right? So I love double mini, but then the federation was really really smart at the time. They saw that I was the one at the moment at that time that had a chance to qualify Portugal to the Olympic Games. So they came to me and like, what is going to take for you to stop doing double mini? And I'm like, money. It was the main reason why I was still doing double mini. I love double mini, but money was definitely the reason why I was still doing double mini. Like, okay, so what if we start paying you like a scholarship monthly, and then you stop doing double mini and you focus on tram? Deal. It was a really fast deal. So, and that's how I finished double mini. basically. So from 2000, end of 2001 to 2013, I only trained trampoline. Yes, and and the main reason I won't deny it, I have no secrets. It was money. Okay, I was
Hmm.
extremely happy with what I did. I was never a world champion individual, which I always wanted to be. But I had several opportunities. I wasn't world champion by my own mistakes. So it is what it is. At that point in time, the Olympic Games, the door was open. So do I want to work towards the Olympic Games now and use the time that I take to do double mini to go to tramp, or do I want to stay doing the double mini like I am and maybe miss out the opportunity for the Olympic Games? And then to answer your question, and I'm going to be, I don't remember clearly, but I think our training was very similar to what we do now. I probably would do double mini, um, let's say 4 weeks before the competition. I probably would do it 3 times a week, about 30, 45 minutes to an hour, maybe of double mini, maybe a little bit less, 45, 50 minutes. Okay. And then up to 2 weeks to the competition, then I probably would do double mini every day for about the same time. I probably would not do, but whenever you get closer, the close week you do double mini, we would do double mini every day, trampoline and double mini every day, because also you start reducing your time on tramp with full routines only, right? So you can go double mini a little bit longer and do your passes. So that was how I distribute my time at the time, if I remember correctly. Another problem of never doing logs is that you can't really go back and check what you
Yeah.
did. So that's why I
Right.
always advise my athletes to use logs, because then 10 years later they can go back and say, oh, this is how I prepared. Look how many routines I did here. Look how many. And today we have the technology to do it, which is much easier. So,
Right.
but yes, that was definitely my evolution. And 21 years old, 2001, the federation started paying me monthly. I stopped doing double mini and I started working on trampoline alone. And I think it
Nice.
was positive
I'm.
because we qualified Portugal for the Olympic Games in 2004.
Mhm.
So
I'm surprised that you trained double mini that much, especially with double mini being that bed being so difficult to push. Um,
but
I
like I
know.
said,
Yeah.
I loved it. I really like double mini. I still like double
Mhm.
mini. It's funny that people right now have this opinion that I don't like double mini because they only see me by the trampoline. Even when they see me coaching double mini, they're like, you're here? Wow, okay. Like it's for me, I love double mini. It's it's
Yeah.
it's nice.
I think I'm in a similar boat. I started already late when I was late, but I did all, like I said, trained all the events. I um when I became an elite when I was 12, I said, I don't want to do this double mini thing anymore. I just want to focus on trampoline. And I did. And then maybe when I was like 14 or 15, a couple years later, I said, you know what? I want to start doing double mini again. It looks fun. And I did. And that year I got either last place or second to last place at every single competition I entered in double mini trampoline. And but I just like doing it, you know? And then the next year in 2005 or 6, I won every single competition in double mini. So, and I still love doing it. So I like doing it, not necessarily for the results, but just to do it. It's kind of like in trampoline, some competitions have a 2-trick competition. So it was fun for me. And
I guess that might be an American thing, yes, because we just saw this year Alyssa O coming back to double mini, Logan Gilbert coming back to double mini,
right,
Isaac Raleigh coming back to double mini. So just to enjoy the fun of double mini. So I think that might be an American thing.
maybe, but I actually, funny story. The only WAGs medal I have is from double mini. I got second place when I was at 15, 16, and I should have been first place because the Russian put his whole freaking foot in the red, and back then it was like done. I was so mad. Stole my gold medal in double mini stolen from me. But so then I continued doing double mini, and then in 2007 when I was senior elite, and it was after we had earned a spot to the Olympic Games at the World Championships um, in 2007 in Quebec. The national team coordinator, Dimitri at the time, and Tatiana, my coach, said, well, you know what? You've been, showing good development. This is a possibility that you could go to the Olympic Games. why don't you stop doing double mini, so you can focus on trampoline, and so that there's less risk of getting hurt, right? So, although I didn't want to, and some people were saying you could have a medal from the world championships if you continue doing double mini, right? And I was like, yes. So at that point, I was kind of asking myself, what's more important to me, a world championship medal or the Olympic Games, right? And obviously, I chose to specialize in trampoline. So I was 17 years old when I chose, but it was more kind of pushed upon me than a decision. But given the opportunity, I don't know if I would have changed my mind. I don't think you can have your cake and eat it too. I don't,
I agree. But
and
the
it makes me
question is,
sad, but
so the question is, if you would not have made the Olympic Games, how would you feel about it?
so I
Especially
didn't
because
make
it
the
was kind
Olympic
of,
Games in 2008. I fell on
oh,
my ninth skill at the Olympic trials, and I was
yes,
super
but
mad,
you,
and I was mad at everybody.
you eventually
Right.
went to
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
Olympic Games, right? Eventually
Right.
you
Yeah.
hit your goal, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's say you never hit your goal, how would you have felt with that being kind of pushed on you? Because that's the thing.
Yeah. I think it would have been. It's hard to say. I think it would have been tough. I have a lot of other things I'm very proud of in my career other than Olympic Games. So I think, I would have still been pleased, with
Yes,
my decision. But had trampoline gone not so well, I would have been angry. For sure, I would have been angry. Um,
I know.
all right,
And
so
don't get me wrong, I think there's plenty of arguments for people to specialize, right? I just think that those arguments need to be exposed to the athletes and to the parents, and they need to make the decision by themselves. If you don't make the decision by yourself, I feel like you never really close that page
mhm.
before you move on to the next page.
And the second part of the question I forgot to answer is I would train double mini one time a week for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then leading up to the competition, I would train maybe 3 days a week for 15 to 20 minutes. Honestly, because I'd work on my run, and then I would do my skills on the trampoline, maybe from one or two jumps, and I'd do practice those skills in my routines. Um, and I would just come in. Coach would say, "Okay, do a couple mounters. Let's do three of your first pass, three of your second pass." I would do them, and then move on. And that,
But yeah,
it's
I understand, but we talked this on episode one, and I really feel like you are very, very talented, way more talented than me. My talent was working hard and working longer than everyone else. That's why I had to train a lot harder.
But I mean, were the double mini passes too difficult for you? I mean, you're doing those skills still on the trampoline.
Yes, but when I remember when I started doing my first half out mounts, how long was I doing half out mounts almost to knees? How long? Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
really?
For a long time. For a long time, yes. To connect the first half outs was really, really hard. After that, when you get older, 15, 16, 17, you start, it becomes a different kind of training. But at that time, it was extremely, beginning is extremely hard. The first half outs are extremely hard. No one would put 8 inches mats on the double mini so you could
Yeah, no.
push it to go higher. There's so many things that we do right now that we wouldn't do at the time, right? No one. These kids evolve so much faster right now than what they did at the time. So much
Yeah,
faster.
absolutely. Well, they also have better equipment, right?
They
That's
also have better
They can
equipment, of course.
walk to the double mini, and the double mini will throw them.
Yes, yes.
Um,
It's a big difference. Big difference.
so do you think, is it possible for athletes to do all four at the world championships, or do you think it's like jack of all trades, master of none? So you're either going to specialize or you're going to be okay on all four. Do you think it's
So,
possible for them to be good on
okay,
all four?
I think it's possible, but not for many. I think
Mhm.
maybe from the world's population, I think you probably find yourself having maximum of 5% that can do that. The other 95 cannot, in
Mhm.
my opinion. And again, no facts, no scientific experiments, nothing, just purely my opinion. I think you will probably find 5% that could probably do it, and not more than that. And when I say could probably do it, I'm saying at the high level, at the really high
Right.
level.
At the
Okay,
world
of course,
championships.
at the world championships level,
Yeah.
fighting for finals. Okay, fighting for
Yeah.
finals, and it's not even just to participate in world championships. Okay, I could do that. I could probably go do tumbling, and I don't know, probably
Well,
not
there was
qualify for world championships. But again, there was plenty of American athletes, and let me just tell you the story. When I moved here, I was like extremely surprised with Austin Nacy. I think he still competed trampoline on the first year that I was here, and I was like, whoa, this guy is doing all three events at a really, really good level. I was like really, really impressed. Austin Nacy was the one that I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen anyone doing three events. He didn't do synchro, three events, or at least I don't remember him doing synchro at really good level. And I'm like, wow, okay, maybe this is more possible than I knew, right?
Mhm.
But again, then when did Austin Nacy got qualified to go to World Championships in trampoline? Not that I remember,
right now.
right?
Mhm.
Because again, it can do it, but
Right.
to be at the highest level and get qualified on all, it's extremely hard. But I think we have some really talented people that could probably do it. You know, in the US, in the United States, we now have Ruben Padilla that could probably do it. I don't want him to
Mhm.
do it, but I think he could probably do it. And seriously,
But is it even worth it? Right? So, I mean, in I remember in 2005, Casey Finley at the World Championships could have and should have medaled on both tumbling and double mini trampoline, and he had some mishaps that and one can argue maybe it was juggling both that messed him up. That if he had done one, he could have been a world champion on one or the other. But at that same time, he was also competing in trampoline and in synchronized trampoline. He was, I think, in 2003. He said he was alternate on the team for trampoline. So at that high world championship level, he was doing all those events. But in my opinion, I think it's possible. I don't think it's I don't see the benefit from it. I don't think there's, okay, yeah, like we said, when they're younger, there's more opportunities to earn a medal. But odds are, if you're training all those events at a high level, you're you're not going to be beating other people that are focusing on just that one event. Like it's in my opinion, it's not going to happen.
and I think also it changes in mindset. Okay, how many athletes do we see that have more than one event? Okay, and they make little mistakes on almost all events. How many athletes do you have that only do one event and they are more successful in that event because their mindset is just on that moment. They're not thinking, oh my goodness, my double late transition to the whip is not really good, and they're on the line for the double mini.
Hmm.
Right? It's just their mindset is just on the moment, I think, more.
And I think it's this mindset of I could do all events or many events, but I might not be successful because the other people are specializing. So I guess I should pick one, right? Let's say
Mm-hmm.
Austin Nacy, Austin White. Now I think Ruben Padilla will be facing this question in the coming years, and I think a lot of times it's, well, do I take an Olympic event or a non-Olympic event? And I think that's obviously a lot of
So
the same decision that most people
just
have
to
been
be
making.
clear,
Yeah,
yes, just to be clear, because we talked about this in the beginning, and I think for the developmental ages, they should not think about Olympic events and non-Olympic
right.
events, right? But when they get to this point, like 17, 18, 19, 20 years
The
old, I think
athletes,
the Olympic discipline gets a bigger weight on the scale, or towards the decision making. When you're waiting the
right.
decision, you need to. I think being an Olympic discipline does carry more weight there at that age.
Absolutely. And what makes me nervous is when they're going to be making this decision, and a lot of athletes that are very talented on trampoline have some success on double mini, and we saw it. How many? I would be really curious how many double mini superstars, and I don't think so much with trampoline, but or tumbling, but maybe how many of them, when I say superstars, I'm talking about like world medalists,
Mm-hmm.
Zolomon, Austin White, the past 10 years of Americans essentially, right, on double mini. How many of them got there without being good at trampoline?
I know.
You
Yeah, I don't
know, and
know.
I don't think Austin White was phenomenal on trampoline. He was one of the
Yes.
first ones doing four triples. He was the one that was pushing us. He was doing quads in 2008, you know, and he was an alternate on the world championship team a few times, but then he had a little taste of, not a little, a big taste of success in maybe 2009 or 2010. Like, I'm sorry, Austin, I don't remember which year it was, that he got his first medal. And then it's like, well, should I keep working my butt off and maybe be an alternate or maybe get on the team? Or, you know, I can, you know, specialize
Be
here
a
and
world
earn a
champion on
medal.
double mini. Yeah,
Exactly. You
exactly.
know,
I totally agree.
um,
It's not easy, but I really think 5% of the world could probably do it. But still, to what cost?
right. And I think that's another thing is to what cost. I think trampoline does get a lot of attention for being an Olympic sport, but I think a lot of people, especially in tumbling and double mini, have this false reality that these trampolinists are like, you know, NBA superstars and making millions of dollars, you know, and these uh I don't even want to call them salaries. The support maybe that they're receiving
Hmm.
is maybe enough to cover some cost of training or some, you know, extra resources here. No one's
And
making, you know,
only for some athletes, not for all the athletes.
right, right. And I think the most, I mean, I'm not sure. I think obviously China bringing in world championship gold medals and Olympic gold medals, and they have obviously their government support. You know, they probably have the highest salary, and maybe second is Russia. But and we look at Belarus didn't have much, right? I mean, I think they had it in Polyash when Dmitry Polyarush was successful, and then we kind of had a little gap, right, between
Hmm.
Polyarush and Vlad. And during that era, I don't think there's necessarily that much support. And then Vlad's medaling at the World Championships and wins the Olympic Games, and all of a sudden they get the support, and people think like, oh, you're a trampolinist, you get the support. No, these medalists are getting support after they have already had the success,
Yeah.
you know? So it's not like they're you know, driving towards their goals essentially without support, you
So
know?
let me ask you this question. So and I do understand. So in a way that we could probably or FIG could probably allow for that success to increase faster on all four events would be to create an all-around competition for trampoline and tumbling and double meet, right? So all three events or
Hmm.
all four events. I would let's count with three right now. Okay, let's leave synchronized out of the question for a moment. Okay, so FIG started this all-around competition with teams,
Right.
which I
Hmm.
think it proved to be very successful so far. Should an all-around competition individual happen? Would that bring us closer to what women gymnastics is and men's gymnastics? And would that give our athletes a platform to show success at all disciplines so they can get more funding? What
Yeah.
do you think?
I think, well, at first I said no, but now that I rethink about it, I think it's a good idea given we have enough days in the week at the World Championships, right? I think that's one of the biggest struggles is finding time. Um, but then we can see the same thing that we see in artistic gymnastics. There are successful all-arounders, and then there are successful people that specialize. And you know, someone who is a jack of all trades, master of none, that can train, you know, 30 minutes on each event every day and still create a high level. You know, I think that's worth recognizing as well. So I think I think there should be, and I just think it's very difficult managing that many events and that many rules and that many aspects to a competition in a given weekend. You know, granted, I also think maybe we can only do it at like world championships. I think it'll get tough with local competitions. You know, it might get messy at the, you know, the junior elite level. Um,
I think it will
but
probably be done at World Championships and World Cups. I think World Cups usually, if they're not combined with an age group competition, they have plenty of
mhm,
time to do it. And using the results from qualification to go into the all-around final, you really only have one more final that you need to realize. It's really not the end of the world. So my biggest concern
But
is
would
the
they be
lack.
competing? Go ahead. Sorry.
My biggest concern is the lack of athletes doing all three events. That's my biggest concern. I don't think we have at this time enough athletes to even compose a final. Now,
Right, and
wait,
that's
you can tell me, yes, but if we started it, then people will probably start it and they will come and they will do it, which I do agree it's true. If we see with the team all around competition, we already see some countries that never did double mini bringing double mini so they can be a part of one more medal for their country. I agree.
Mhm.
But how can FIG start a competition when knowing that on the first competition at least we won't have enough athletes to even make a final? It's kind of, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but it's just not there yet, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think my question would be is, would it run like it is in artistic gymnastics where the all-arounders compete in each apparatus, right? And then they advance to the all-around final so that you still have only 4 people per event? Or would it be its own separate competition? I think if they took it from qualifications, I think that would be good. And I think what we would see is some countries, there'd be a lot of strategy. Are we going to be all arounders, or are we going to be specialists, or are we going to have a balance of both, bring 2 specialists and 2 all arounders at a chance at
But
the all around medal?
isn't that how
And
artistic is? They also take
right,
the all from
right.
qualification, right? So that's what I would assume that we would do too. I think FIG is at a point that they want to how do you say, put the sports with,
Consolidate. Yeah.
consolidate the rules as much as possible. We all have different rules, we know that, but try to make it as close as possible to each other. So I would say if that was to happen, that would have to be the format. We would say you would get the finalists out of qualification 1 or even qualification 2 for the next cycle, I guess, and then see. I would do it out of qualification 1, to be honest, because out of qualification 2, you already, your qualification 2 is already 24, which would be the all around final. So that will not
Right.
make sense. So it'd have to be
And
out of qualification 1, and how many are we going to have doing all 3 events? That's the thing. But yes, it could open the door to a lot of strategy. You could, because you could have all arounders in the team, and you could have apparatus specialists, right? That could try and make that semifinal and the individual final. So my question is 4 athletes enough on a team now to do that? Because
right.
artistic does not have 4 athletes, probably because of that reason, right? I guess they have 4 athletes only for the
Well, I
Olympic
think,
Games.
well, they have less for the women's artistic. I think they have 4, but they also have 4 apparatuses.
No, but okay, I don't want to misspoke here, but I think they have 5 that they can use on different apparatus. They can only compete
Right, right, right,
4.
right.
They can only compete 4, but they have 5. So one person can do beam and the other one not do beam
Right.
and do vault, for
But
example,
on each
right?
event is 4
For
people.
each event,
So you're saying that we would still only, because right now we could bring 12, 14 athletes, right? For like American delegation, 4 on trampoline, 4 on double mini, 4 on tumbling. So you're saying we'd have to consolidate that down to what?
Oh no, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking about a trampoline team.
Yeah,
I was
I
just
think
thinking in a strategy type, having 4 athletes on trampoline would probably not be enough to have two thinking about all around and 2 thinking
yeah.
about individual,
So
right?
I mean, I
That would
guess
not
you could bring as many as you want, but you can only compete 4 on trampoline, 4
4.
on double mini, 4 on tumbling. And out
Yeah.
of those 4,
Well,
how many are only trampolinists and how many people will be competing in the all around, right? So that's where
yeah,
the
right.
strategy comes into
Exactly.
play.
So yeah. So but for that, with that sense, it doesn't make sense to bring as many as you want. We just stick with the 4. And but you do have to do that. You have to decide how many all arounders you would have there and how many specialists would you have there. Because you could get 3 into semifinal, right? Or
Hmm.
yeah, it's semifinal right now. We're Q2 in the next cycle, but then, oof, okay. That's why don't you guys drop us a comment below and let us know what you guys think about all this. This is quite a curious subject, and I'm very curious to hear what you guys have in mind.
And I think I lost my train of thought. I I love these conversations because they just take me on so many different roads and different thoughts. Um,
And then you forget about it.
yeah, and then sometimes we forget about them. Oh, I remember my train of thought. So let's say this becomes true, the situation, right? And let's just hypothetically, use the Americans here. So we have three people on our male trampoline world championship team, and then our fourth spot, should it go to the fourth best trampolinist who has a shot at that semifinals, or to the all around? So now we domestically start fighting for spots,
Right,
right?
exactly.
And yeah,
Domestically, countries can do whatever they want, play with strategy there. Because I agree, if you have an all-arounder that can make a all-around final at World Championships, why not?
yeah, yep. And especially if it's new and it's upcoming, then there's a chance at a world championship medal. We saw the same thing happen with the team all around final, right? That
Yeah,
a lot of people took advantage of that opportunity. When in 10 years from now, that competition might be a lot more tough, right? As China starts to develop in double mini, and other countries like Japan, and other countries that we haven't seen before.
yeah, absolutely.
So one last question before we go. What do you think about um, not performing synchronized trampoline to focus on trampoline? And I think you kind of brushed up on it at the beginning.
Yeah. So I think it's all about the mindset. Okay, look at the Chinese. Okay, when the Chinese saw that trampoline was going to be an Olympic sport, let me correct myself. Individual trampoline was going to be an Olympic discipline, right? Did they do synchro? They did not do synchro. They did individual for at least 4 years only, just competing individual, and they were the best in the world, right? Then they're already the best. They started doing synchro, where they were the best as well for a lot of competitions. I know Tu Chiao and
Well,
Dong Dong are
not
probably
at
one of the
first,
best synchronized, not at first, yes, but
right?
they're probably one of the best synchronized pairs we have right now. And recently they didn't do synchro. I don't know if you noticed, but last year they didn't do synchro at the World Cup. They brought other pairs to do it, and there were even competitions that there was no Chinese in synchro. I thought there was something extraordinary, but I think it's all a matter of mindset. Okay, where do you want to put your goals? Are you extremely good that you don't even need to worry that much and you're gonna make it? Then why not open the door to synchro? But if you're not that good, should you do synchro? I think it depends on the person. Like I said, for me, synchro helped me get better. For other people, it's too much of a broad spectrum of attention that they can't focus on the individual. So I think it really depends on the person. What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's wonderful. I think it's important. I think it is a crucial part of training trampoline for the mindset as well, in a different aspect. I think sometimes trampolinists, we tend to overthink, overcorrect, and a great way to kind of put that, to make your decisions more cognitive, right? More subconscious, more in the back of your mind, and um you need to practice synchro, so that you're not like, do I kick out, hold, do I squeeze, right? You're more kind of focused on listening to
Mm-hmm.
the other partner, and it kind of puts you into this rhythm, um as far as individually goes. You get on this, like you said, autopilot routine. And I think that's important. And I think to take that away is taking away something that's there to help you. And also, especially if you have a synchro partner now with time of flight that jumps higher than you, right? That's a wonderful gift to someone. When I have some athletes that aren't jumping high, and then I put them with someone to do synchro that jumps higher than them, and they're forced to jump higher, their eyes open. They're like, maybe I can jump higher and stay on the trampoline and do okay. And I think to take away that opportunity isn't helping. Granted, you have to take it, like you said, athlete to athlete. If there are some athletes that are just super overwhelmed and stressed by the thought of synchro, okay, that's one thing. But if it's just for the sheer fact of, oh, I want to focus on individual trampoline. I mean, they're essentially the same routines, same, apparatus. Um, I disagree with that. I think that they should do double mini. And it's another opportunity to get on the equipment at the competition. It's another opportunity to add a medal, and medals equal confidence. Why wouldn't you have another shot at confidence?
All right, guys, that's a wrap for this part of the podcast, the discussion part. We'll be back for the Q&A in a second.
Welcome to the Q&A section, guys. We have a couple of questions this week. We love these questions. We love opening up these conversations. So please feel free to send us questions, comment questions. Nuno, why don't you read us off our first question for today?
So this was not an official question that we received this week. This question was asked to me personally to give my input, but I thought it was great to bring it to the community and to know what your input is on this question. I know this person is doing a poll about this question, and it would be great to know what you guys think about it. You can drop a comment below. You can reach out to this person directly. Whatever you decide to do, just leave your input. Okay. So the first question comes from Diane Neeson, and the question is, what is the ultimate skill in trampoline and tumbling today? So Steven, what is your ultimate skill?
Trampoline and tumbling.
So the question was written as TNT. So
right.
I guess we can clarify it more, but and there is a lot of openings here, right? Is it in training? Yeah. Is it in competition? So why don't we touch a little bit on both of them?
Well, I think tumbling cuts off 50% of our skills because they only do back skills, right? So I think if you're talking in competition across all events, I think the most popular and the biggest skill that we see is either Miller or Miller Plus, right? I would say the majority.
You don't think that Rudyard Triff and full front half are as hard as Miller or Miller Plus?
No. I'm saying across all the events. So you don't see full front half or full front Rudy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I misunderstood that part.
If you're talking about just the trampoline skills, I would say in competition, probably the most difficult skill is probably full front half or trip Rudy out that we see in the competition. And the most common or ultimate that we see is probably Miller. Again, it's almost in every single male routine.
Yes, I think a Miller is almost on a routine. That's probably the most common, but I would have to agree. I think the ultimate skill in competition right now would probably be full front half or even Rudyard Triff. I think full front half is a little bit harder than Rudyard Triff. I think you can correct me, but you competed 1.5 front half. So yep. I think that skill would probably be more ultimate than Rudyard Triff or full front half, but it's not really a skill that we see every athlete doing. It's not a skill that we see on a regular basis. That's all.
Right. I think, and that was kind of towards the end of the 2-trick compulsory routine before it went to 4. And it was like, well, you know what? Let's have some fun with these 2 tricks. It's going to be, the last of it. So yeah, the 1.5 front half, and Jeffrey did it, my brother as well. And in training, I did 1.5 front Rudy out pike, which is by far the hardest thing that I've ever done in my entire life, because I would constantly be twisting the last Rudy too early or missing the timing. It was pretty much like someone just kind of spun me around and threw me, and that's about as much as I understood where I was in the air.
So what about in training? What do you think that people are doing in their gyms? We don't know all of it, of course, right. But let's put our mind together and see if, with the physical abilities that people have right now, okay, and with the equipment that we have right now, what do you see these athletes doing? Because I can see people clearly doing full front Rudies. I think it's possible. Obviously,
I think so.
Some people are doing quads as well. I think quad pike is probably a pretty hard skill. Not even in terms of mentally how hard it is, but the height that you need, the rotation that you need, the flexibility that you need for that.
I think the mindset is even more difficult. I think the scariest thing when I started to do quads, the scariest thing was, don't get it mixed up with your triples and doubles. Don't get it mixed up with your triples and doubles. And I think that's probably the hardest part about this. And I think, talking about skills, and you can correct me if if I'm wrong or if you disagree, and this is maybe biased in my 100% my opinion. I think that, like Rodolfo was saying, like back in the 90s and 2000s, there was tons of big tricks, or people would just do it, for fun, to see, to get the adrenaline rush and to push the boundaries and the limits. And maybe they didn't have any intentions of competing, full in Adolf out, or, full half. But now I feel like it's all about routines, mastering the time of flight, mastering the HD, trying to push the boundaries of the total score. And I don't think we either see that fun adrenaline rush skills. Maybe I'm biased, maybe it's happening and I just don't see it.
No, I agree with you. I think we become a more professional sport. Everything needs to be more perfect than what it was before. And I think it killed a little bit of the fun of doing new skills and skills that you don't use on your routine. I feel like me as a coach, I follow like this path that I want for my athletes, like build these routines so they can get in these skills so they can get in the routine and the best possible, right? And we kind of miss out on doing other skills that could be really, really fun, but we really don't have the time to do it because everything is so hard right now. Okay.
Unless they bring back the 2-trick competition.
I know, right? So unless they bring back the 2-trick competition, then I think we would see a lot of amazing skills. I remember Nissan Cup, 1998, maybe something like that. I don't know. Mathieu Turgeon does
full half,
full
right?
half in, half in, half out, half. No, sorry.
No.
Half in, half out, full.
Yes. And didn't he kick away the mat? Someone went to put the mat up and he kicked it off the trampoline.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was Dave Ross. He grabs the mat and he was like, no. And he kicks the mat away. And I was like, what is he doing? And I'm like, at the time, he did skills that I never even thought was possible. My mind was so small at the time. I didn't even think it was possible.
We need more stuff like that. We need like David Ross reach for the sky competition with the big splash where they would do the biggest trick into a reservoir or lake from the trampoline. Man, those are the best times. Not anymore, I guess. It's a new era. So what other question do we have?
Okay, so the second question was sent to me by Double Mini Trampoline World on Instagram, and it was again a personal question, but I think I can give some clarity. Again, it's a personal answer. I do not know if this would be enough or it would not be enough. But the question was, how many countries and how many athletes do I think that double mini and tumbling need to have on a consistent basis, and what does consistent means to even be eligible or a possibility to go into the Olympic Games? Considered to the Olympic Games. So like we said on the episode previously, it's just not all about the numbers, but the numbers are a big part of it. Yes. So for me, I think that to be even considered, trampoline and double mini and tumbling need to have at least numbers that are comparable to what trampoline was when it was considered. And I don't want to misrepresent or misspeak anything here, but I think at this point in time, if double mini and tumbling want to be considered, they need to have consistently at world championships having 30 to 35 countries represented, which would put more or less around how many did I say? I don't want to. I said 80
35?
to 90 athletes, 30 to 35 countries, 80 to 90 athletes per gender on world championships. And at World Cups, 20 countries with around 60 athletes per gender. I think that needs to be on a consistent basis. We saw, like we talked already, we saw that double mini have World Cups since last year. Last year was the first year that double mini had, and we have some competitions with a really good number that still don't reach here, and other competitions with even lower numbers that we can even barely make a finals for double mini and tumbling. So I think the problem here is a lot of numbers. And then after you have the numbers, let's say that double mini and tumbling community can grow their numbers, they can have these achieved, right? I think still at that point, it still goes to consideration with the IOC and the FIG and for the FIG to propose to the IOC and the IOC to accept, because like we talked before, for someone to go in, someone has to go out, and no one wants to go out. So it's still hard. I'm not going to deny it. I would love to see double mini and tumbling and synchro at the Olympic Games. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. But I think these numbers are still very, very far from what double mini has right now, and tumbling.
So let's take a look. Let's look here to the 2019 World Championships in Tokyo for double mini men. We had 43 competitors, and for double mini women, we had
43
34.
Put us around half of the number that I think they should have, right? And the
and
women
34,
had what?
34.
That's even less than half. So I
And
think
then
if double mini and tumbling wants to be considered, because this is just my personal opinion. I don't know if this would be possible or not possible. It's my personal opinion. I think if they want to be considered, they need to obviously have double that participation.
And then for tumbling, the men had 41 and the women had 33. So yeah,
so it's still they need to double. If they double their participation, I think they might have a shot at being considered. But to double a participation is not so easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So to convince,
absolutely.
to create athletes to that level, and to have, for the federation to have means to support them to take to world championships and support for World Cups and all that, it's really not so easy. Really not so easy. But I think that is a big step. Maybe not the only step, but a big step to achieve that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes the Q&A section. Please send us some more questions. You guys can reach us at trampolineinsight@gmail.com. You can reach us on Twitter at trampinsight. You can reach us on Instagram at trampolineinsight. You can send us a voice link through the link on all the platforms. Just a friendly reminder, try to keep it below 90 seconds so we can play it. And you can also reach us personally on all the social media platforms as well. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We look forward to hearing from you guys. We look forward to hearing some questions or some topics that you guys are interested in hearing. And this is what we love to do. So keep them coming, and we'll talk to you guys in the next episode.
See you guys soon.